drop to the season's full. Tune in and watch the drama unfold.
And arguably one of the craziest games we've seen in a very long time from the Toronto Maple Leafs. They come out in shocking fashion and get the win. I say shocking because they were once leading 3-0, an absolute collapse, followed by Mitch Marner, the guy who's been the topic of conversation for the past few weeks, winning the game in a shootout. We're going to break it all down, and what an absolutely crazy game this was. Quite frankly, even time aside, 1 a.m. Eastern time. The one player I do want to give a shout out to is, of course, Benoit. An absolute masterclass. Be prepared for your ears. This might be a little bit loud, but ladies and gentlemen, it was a wild game, and the Benoit train is in full effect here. Darius, say big win.
I think that was the best game Simone Benoit's ever played in his life. Like that was fantastic. He was breaking up plays. Obviously, almost had the Gordie Howe hat trick. He had a goal. He had that Superman Roman Reigns Superman punch to Michael Kesselring, which was insane. I never like to see a player hurt, but that was crazy. But yeah, it's Simon here, new name. Haven't seen Simon before.
Shout out to the 5, Simon. You put Chow in the net. Interesting.
Olivia Chow is the mayor of Toronto. Nick, so he's saying to put.
I don't
Olivia Chow,
live in
mayor.
Toronto. I don't live in Toronto.
Yeah, the mayor of Toronto. Very, very, yeah, interesting.
Hey, I think Joseph Wall was clutch. I think he was clutch. Bad game for him, but it was ultimately clutch. Blake as well, the 279. Let's go, Benny. We needed that win. Train back, Blake. There you go. I don't know if the train had sound. Was the train too loud, or was the sound fine, or did it even have sound? Let me know down below. But yeah, I mean, an absolutely fantastic. I mean, game to watch, I guess. Like, not really. It was fun.
I'm a good first period.
What?
It was a good first period.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into some of the new players because there's been a lot of discourse online. But again, thank you, Simon, and thank you, Blake, for the 279. Too loud. Okay, I figured. I'll adjust that for next one.
That game was a roller coaster of a game if it was Leviathan and you get stuck at the top for the last half of it. And then it finally drops down with Marner's goal. So that was kind of brutal to watch. Now, I also have to say, because I noticed it tonight, and I think that he played well, Joseph Woll, ever since Jim, shout out Jim, I'm pretty sure he's in the chat, mentioned it, I cannot stop seeing it. His rebound control is horrific. Absolutely horrific. The puck bounces up every single time. I've been noticing that now ever since he's been talking about it. But I don't know, he figures it out. He makes the save, and he made a couple big ones there. And he was big in the shootout as well. I've noticed that. He's pretty good in close. So needed him there, and big 2 points. Doesn't really matter how you get them, because it's going to be ugly in the playoffs too. It just matters if you win. So they did that, but I didn't like that momentum swing in the second period. That was crazy.
They played bad. Also one of the worst referee games I've ever seen in my life.
Tough call.
Simon, we're going to win the cup. I like the depth added. Simon, shout out to you for another 5.
Yeah, thank you, Simon.
I mean, you know, it was. I'm happy they won because this would have been a disastrous 3 days off. However, we saw the Benoit fight. We saw fitting it ends in a shootout. A great goal by Mitch Marner, clutch, and Matthews as well. Joseph Wall wasn't great. It was. I hope they win the cup. I like the way the team looks most of the time. Now, again, Calle Yarncroke got a goal. Mitch Marner obviously sealed the deal. Benoit, best game of he got a goal. So best game of his might be the best game of his Leafs tenure, maybe his career. I don't know how he did over there in Anaheim, but
he should have been in the shootout.
Yeah, I mean, luckily they learned from their mistakes and didn't put John Tavares back out there after his last shootout one. But yeah, the Benoit fight was good. See a lot of people harping on the Scott Lawton and not Dylan, Brandon Carlo.
Yeah.
I think it was fine. I don't,
I think to judge these new players for any team in the first 5 games is wrong, whether it's positive or negative. I think we got to wait at least 5 games to see how they settle in. They also joined this team in the middle of a road trip, which wasn't really a road trip. It was a 3 game road trip. Like, let's be real, right? But still, they joined them in the middle of like being on the road. So let's see how they settle in at home, see what they bring to the table, and I would give it like 5 games before we really like kind of start going at some of these players. But I honestly really like Brandon Carlo. Like he keeps it simple. A couple times tonight, I just saw like gets the puck, chips it out. I was like, cool, all good. When it comes to the playoffs, it's stuff you need. So don't mind his game at all. Riley, I don't even know what to think about the game tonight. Like he made a couple plays where I was like, okay, we're into it. We're
honestly,
into it.
I think overall he had a fine game.
A decent game.
There was a few plays where he was rough, but like generated a lot of scoring chances. Got the assist on the one of the goals. I believe it was I
Yeah.
forget who it was. There's been so many goals. I think it was Yarncroke, but
Yarn Croaks goal. Yeah.
so I think I mean there was a couple bad plays as well. He lost his man on one of the plays. Also, yeah, Brandon Carlo worse game than it was the last time, but um, there is some times where he's hesitant with one of the goals that everyone's harping on Carlo for was actually John Tavares' man, and they just I mean Tavares was supposed to. It wasn't Dylan. It looked like it on the replay that it was Brandon Carlo's fault because they were both on the same guy. I think technically it was John Tavares' man, and Berube ripped into him in the timeout. I mean, they got to communicate that better, but that one wasn't on Carlo. Has looked a little bit slow, turned it over a few times. Scott Lawton just didn't look good a little bit as well. But Mitch Marner had like 8 turnovers and then won the game.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was a couple. I thought Domi had some legs tonight as well, even in overtime, coming back and back checking. So I thought Domi was okay as well. A couple guys, McMahon skating. He's got to stop flailing his stick all over the place, but he'll be all right. Nice to see Yarncroke. We haven't mentioned it yet. He scored a goal. His first goal in over a year after everything he's been through. I thought he was going to miss the season. That's a feel-good story, and he's standing exactly where he needs to. And I thought it was a good play from Riley to get it down. I mean, kind of risky, but it worked. You got it down to Domi. Great pass by Domi, and Yarncroke scores his first goal and since I think last January. So shout out to him. Good for him. And again, I didn't think he was going to come back this year, but he's proven to be. He was playing on the second line tonight, and he scored. I know it was on the power play, but still not bad. So excited to see what he can do the rest of the way too, because this is only his third game, fourth game at this point.
Yeah,
So
third.
third, fourth, yeah. Oh yeah, because he was scratched last game. So yeah, I'm excited to see
It was
what he's able to do.
yeah, it was a bad game like for the Leafs. It's almost 3 a.m. for me, Blake. It was a bad game for the Leafs. Gentlemen, again, I don't think he had a great game, Brandon Carlo, but like it's the second game with
I
the
don't think it was
Leafs.
that
Like
bad.
it just is what it is at this point. I think he's fine. Like people who nitpick the new guys 2 games in, like the team looks terrible. It's not just Brandon Carlo; it's the whole blue line. I would argue that there's been players who looked worse than Brandon Carlo tonight, specifically Philip Myers. So it's like at the end of the day,
Yeah,
I'm gonna let him slide a little bit. And I don't think he played a great game. He was slow at times. He obviously lost his. I mean, I don't even think he lost a man on one of them, but he obviously screened the goalie on one of them, which is unfortunate. But again, it is what it is. Scott Lawton's looked way worse than Carlo, but again, they'll figure it out. He's a third liner. He's not gonna do anything crazy regardless, and they don't have Chris Tanev, so. I don't know. I'm not going to nitpick Scott Lawton, Brandon Carlo. No one on the team today really played good. Besides, I mean, Nylander had a good game. Matthews had a really good game. Even though good night, Craig. Even though he didn't have a goal in regulation, he was driving play in the third. Really good third period, I'll say. First two were a little bit quiet, but no one's playing great right now, so it is what it is.
no, they needed to get out of this road trip. Get out of it. Get back home. They're now at home for 4 straight, and they're playing Florida. It should be a good game on Thursday. I have a couple days off, so I'm expecting a really good game on Thursday. Every time I say that, I know exactly what I get, and it's a poor performance. But we will see, what they bring to the table Thursday. But again, they just needed to get out of that road trip. Let's get back home, feeling good. Get everyone acclimated. They're gonna have some meetings. They're gonna have a practice. They're gonna skate together, so they should be good. I'm not worried about Lawton. Like I said, within the first 5 games, I'm not worried about Lawton or Carlo. I actually think Carlo's been playing pretty well, and in terms of Scott Lawton, new team. He's been playing wing. They acquired him to play center. He can play center. He's played center before. He's been playing wing under John Tortorella with the Flyers. So he's got to get back into getting acclimated. The ice time too, because he had a bigger role in Philly. Because Philly is brutal. So we'll see. I'll give him like 5 games to really, see what they bring to the table, but I'm not worried about it. I think he'll be a good acquisition. I see little things over the ice that, he's he's trying to do, and it almost seems like he's overcompensating. Same with Carlo, like blocking that shot in front of Stolar's last game. Like, you got a goalie and he's got gloves for a reason, right? Like, I feel like some of the guys, because they're new, are overcompensating. So they'll settle in, and I think they'll be okay at the end of the day.
Yeah. Though, again, I'm going to see. I don't think Carlo had a good game. I don't imagine the advanced analytics will treat him well, just because of the way that he was around. But at the same time, like, I think with the eye test second game, I think he was out. Like, he was fine, all things considered. It's not the end of the world. But again, I can't imagine. I'm going to get I actually have the impact chart here.
I just saw it right now, and that's why I laughed, because I don't want to spoil it,
Pretty
but
bad, right? I'd assume.
it's what we thought. It's what we thought.
Which is fine. Let's look at the impact chart here. I'm assuming Brandon Carlo is at the bottom. He is.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think he played good. I mean, he didn't play bad. Like, he had some plays that was fine, but you look at all the defensemen. All of them are in the bottom, besides Jake McCabe. So it's like 5 out of the 6 defensemen. The whole group is playing atrociously.
It was and it was horrible. Like, during the comeback from 3-0 to 3-3, all of the defensemen, it was brutal. It was awful. They weren't, not even like they weren't covering their men, but they weren't playing aggressively whatsoever. The coverage wasn't there. It was just really bad. I do want to acknowledge here in the chat that Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games. Yeah. So that did happen. We don't know much of anything other than what was said, but it's been suspended 20 games. So take advantage. No Aaron Ekblad, who's been really good for them, and you have no Matthew Tkachuk. This was a big 2 points. Let's build off of this, and you play them Thursday, so you can get right back there and close that gap.
Yeah, Nylander was absolutely gassed. He was on, I think, like almost a 3-minute shift, which is something you'll never see, but especially rarely see there. You have Benoit, Kemp, Holmberg, Lorentz, the top 4 there, which honestly kind of passes the eye test. You have
Lorentz.
Morgan Riley, really bad at defense, but like I said, generated a lot of offensive chances tonight, so I think he had a fine game. Myers, bad. OEL, bad. Brandon Carlo, bad as well, but I mean, the whole blue line is bad. They seem lost without Chris Tanev. So
maybe without Brandon Tanev as well. Maybe they should have went out and got him.
Yeah. Matthews fine. Let me see who else. Mitch Marner. I mean, I'm surprised, honestly. He had several turnovers. Now, none of them led to goals.
Tough game.
So, and he did win them. Seth Jones and Marchand replacements, though. Yeah. So Tanev needs to be there for this team for good. Well, that doesn't mean we got very good depth. I don't think it's as black and white as that, but Chris Tanev is the most valuable. Like, he's one of the most valuable defensemen in the league when it comes to the defensive side of things.
Yeah, Marchand's still hurt too, by the way. I didn't even mention him on that. I don't like to think about Brad Marchand, but no, I think Tanev being out, and the reason they've been bad isn't as black and white, like you said, because it lengthens the lineup when he's in there, right? So Myers will come out, and your defense is just better as a result of that, and because of the pairings, because you have another righty there, and a good righty. So if you look at the team like the Winnipeg Jets earlier this season, Dylan Sandberg goes down with a foot injury. I can't remember. I think he broke his leg or something. And they started losing games. And it's not because they turned into a bad team. It's because of the lineup. It lengthened the lineup when he was in there. And he was kind of like that glue guy. I see Tanev as that guy. He's in the lineup. It just makes them that much better with the pairing of him and McCabe. Everyone has a role. They're building the team so everyone has roles. This is how Berube won the Stanley Cup in St. Louis, right? So that's kind of what I'm seeing. But we'll see when he comes back, right? And we don't know when that is at this point. It was looking like it was going to be soon, but we'll see. We'll see.
Hopefully on Thursday. That would be the hope. Desperately need him anyways, the defensive group. Also, let's try to get to 35 likes. We're at 25 now. 120 of you in here, which is crazy. Given the
shout out to 124 of you in
everyone
the
loves the late streams, which that game went.
Shouldn't everyone be in bed? It's Monday night.
Listen,
Monday night.
Diehard Leafs fans.
Love for the Leafs.
That's and a huge win. I mean, ultimately needed it. Now they're 1 point behind the Florida Panthers at this juncture. 1 point or 2 points, I think. 2 points behind.
And they play them too.
Heading into Thursday, now they're 3 points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, I mean, it's glad they didn't lose it there when they had a little bit of a chance there. Marchand might not play for Florida. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm happy with the game. Play. It was a good win. It wasn't a good win, but it was a win. I mean, they got the job done in the shootout. Joseph Wallstead has had a little bit. Technically it is 3M for me. I guess what 1, 120.
It's creeping up on 130.
Congratulations, Jordan. Hopefully, at the end of the Western road trip, I guess this game would be good for you if you're up anyway.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Congratulations, Jordan. That's funny.
He is dead last, gentlemen. You are correct. You are correct.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Let's get. I believe Jim is waiting in
Nice.
the woodworks here. We're 3 likes away from 35. Let's get Jim in here. Jim, it was first of all, it's late, so thank you for calling in late this morning, I guess, early this morning, whatever way you want to go about it.
Good
B,
morning. Yeah.
I am extremely happy that they won that game because that was the most nervous I've been during a Leafs game in a very long time. Because if they lost that, man, would they be in for it'd just be a long 3-day wait. And I was ready to be pessimistic. I'm going to be optimistic because that's usually the vibe that I take here. I'm curious to see what you were thinking coming off of you were rightfully so pretty hard in the Leafs last game after their brutal loss against the Avs. So what are your thoughts on this one tonight?
So, hey guys, first off, I just want to say, Darius, this is my first live with you in a while. I just want you to know Nick did very well in your stead, but I'm glad to see
Oh, I know. I watched.
the dynamic duo back here together. Welcome back, buddy. I hope you enjoyed your little mini vacation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's start off on a really high note. My boy, and one of my favorite players, and obviously probably no one else's favorite player, Simone Benoit. Now, if I was Simone Benoit, what I would do right now is I would be, number one, I would be asking everyone for a copy of this game, and then I would get a copy of the impact score chart, have it framed, and I'd have my family give it to me every day as an award because he's never, ever going to be at the top of this thing ever again.
Yeah, probably not.
But let's hand it to him, man. He had a hell of a game, and when he threw that GSP Superman punch, elevated, jumped into it. I think he's already like 6'4", 6'5", jumped into it. I actually I was, my mouth dropped. I was aghast. I'm like, what is he? He's going to kill him. But yeah, anyways, that was hilarious. But good. I mean, honestly, Benoit had a game of games, and you know what? And that's what I love about this game is that you never know what's going to happen. And Benoit just absolutely. I mean, he was everywhere tonight. He did everything right. He fought. He had a goal. I'm not sure if he had an assist. But he almost had one. He was. Yeah, he looked great tonight. Outside of my Benoit lore here, yeah, I am going to touch on Joseph Wall, guys. And yeah, as you guys gave me credit, I appreciate that. But yeah, it remains right. His rebound control is questionable. It's almost like every time he's very good. He's very good positional goaltender. But then he'll get in front of the shot, and then he goes from goalie to fisherman because it's almost like he's trying to reel in the puck every time. And hopefully it's within reach of his paddle, but more often than not, it's not. And I think that's going to come with more experience. But this is where I think, when we've talked about our two goaltenders as a 1A, 1B, I think we're starting to see a separation. I mean, lately, I think we've seen a separation of the two, even more so than previously in the year. I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think, well, we've been saying it since the start of the season. Obviously, they were going to battle it out in terms of the goaltending specifically, but they were going to battle it out. And now we're really seeing they're kind of doing the Boston model where it's like one game on, one game off, right? And just going back and forth with that. But, with Joseph Wall, I think he's a great goaltender. And I think he's shown flashes in the past, but he's still relatively young. And I think goaltenders really peak around 28 to like 32. Right? That's kind of their prime.
Right. Yep.
He's not there yet. He's still young. He's still learning. He's still young in the league too, right? Like I don't know how many games he has off the top of my head, but I want to say it's like 60 or something like that. So
sub 100 for sure, Darius.
For sure, right? So I still think he's a young goaltender in the league who's learning, and I think he's great. And honestly, he saved that series as best as he could last year.
70 games.
All of that, 70 games, right? So same kind of area there. Still under 100 in his career, but all that being said, I think Anthony Stolarz is the guy going to the playoffs. I think we can all see it at this point. Yes, it was a rough game last game. I wouldn't even pin it all on him specifically, but yeah, I think he's the guy. For me personally, I know Nick's probably thinking the same thing. He's been on the Stolarz train the whole time, but yeah, I think it's Stolarz. He just seems more calm. The team seems more calm, more poised, playing in front of him. Everything goes through your goaltender. If your goaltender's shaky, the whole team's going to play shaky.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Nick, do you have any thoughts on that, or should I continue to my
I do
next point,
have
guys?
a couple. I'll be a quick. Eric with the membership
Yep.
message. Thank God the deadline's done. Good job. Give him time to adapt. Yeah, I agree. Well, I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with. I mean, he was at the bottom of the impact chart. It is what it is. Yeah, regarding Joseph Wall, Stolarz is the better goaltender. I think it makes it makes more sense that he is the better goaltender. He's been around for longer, 133 games for Anthony Stolarz in his career. But again, he's coming off of a cup win. Obviously, he wasn't the goalie. He played one game in the playoffs, all that. But at the end of the day, he looks better. He passes the eye test better. And I think there's something to be said about the team being less nervous in front of him now. I think Stolarz is 31, 30, whatever it ends up being. I think 31 years old. Like, he is more so a veteran when compared to Joseph Wall, and he looks it that way out there. I think Wall can end up being a fantastic goalie, and I still think right now he's a solid, like, he's an elite backup goalie, I think, is kind of where he is now, which, given the current team, I think it can be, he's signed to a 3-year contract, and Stolarz is under a contract next year, but it worries me a little bit. That being said, huge bounce back game in general. He was coming off of a game where he got pulled against the Vegas Golden Knights. So for him to give up 3 in a row and then not give up a goal late in the third in overtime and to do a good job in the shootout, like, it was a solid game for him, a good learning game. But you need to win now, and Stolarz is the better goalie. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really think it's particularly close at this moment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to add on that, Nick, I think he made some really key saves late in the third and definitely in the overtime. Otherwise, I mean, we'd be having a different conversation tonight. Goalies are important, guys, but the most important thing is defense, and that's my next point. Is I'm just wondering, and I made a point about it in the chat, but I just don't know where our team defense has gone. Because we used to be, I mean, historically, the Leafs team has not been great at protecting leads, but this year under Berube, it has been different up until lately. And I've just noticed that lately, it's just we've gotten back into I don't want to say old habits, because some of these guys are new players doing the old Leafs habits, but there's definitely a tendency for us to start blowing leads again, which is a little unnerving, thinking about what we're looking at, securing a higher level playoff spot, but also going into the playoffs. So I made a joke about it, saying that in the chat, saying, is it with Tanev on the IR? But I wonder, and I've made this point before, but what a solidifying effect he has on our defense, and perhaps with him in, it changes all the pairings on an upside in such a way that it allows the whole team to settle in a little better. I don't know. Maybe I'm off on this, guy. Just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
No, that's the way I feel. I said it a couple minutes ago. Exactly that, actually. That, with him in the lineup, I compared it to the Winnipeg Jets. They lost Dylan Sandberg earlier this season. They were on a roll. Everyone knows they were like 18-1 or whatever they were, and they're still really good. And then they lost Dylan Sandberg due to a broken leg, and they started losing all these games. I think they lost 9 out of 11 or something like that, right? And people are like, oh, what happened? Did they turn into a bad team? No, I don't think they turned into a bad team. I think one guy does make a difference. It lengthens the whole lineup. The pairings are different. There's different roles. The Leafs are built, I think, this year more so than ever that I've seen, at least, based off of like roles. They want guys to play certain roles. They want like each line to be like a toolbox they can go into, and in certain points of the games, because again, that's how the St. Louis Blues won their Stanley Cup with Craig Berube. So that's the way I feel like they're built. And when you're missing one guy as good as Tanev, I think he's their best defenseman, honestly, especially defensive defenseman. So when you're missing a guy like that, the lineup is shorter. Guys are playing. Riley's playing with OEL a lot. That's not ideal. You know what I mean? So obviously, they just got Carlo. And I like the point that you brought up about team defense, because there was a play tonight. And when it happened, I saw on Twitter and Reddit, Nick and I were talking about it. Everyone was blaming Carlo. And if you watch the play, it was one of the goals. It's I think it was Schmaltz's goal. He's the centerman.
Right.
Tavares is covering the other defenseman with Brandon Carlo. It's John Tavares' fault. And when he goes to the bench, you can see Berube's giving it to him. And the whole time I'm like, that's John Tavares' fault. That's the centerman who's wide open in front of the net. And Twitter and everything, they're all, oh, Brandon Carlo, why wasn't he covering the guy? But it was the center's fault, right? So it's the team defense, right? Where the center should follow the center. And it's just like a lack of, I don't know what it is. They're not locked in mentally right now, especially on this trip. So that's why I keep seeing like, let's just get home, see how they play on Thursday. They're at home for the next 4. These new guys are going to get acclimated. Then we can kind of judge everything. But the last few games have been horrible. I was at the game against San Jose, and I was like, I would have totally expected this last year in the last couple of years, and I was like, I have no idea who this team is anymore. This just happened again. Like I haven't seen this for at least a year, and that's kind of what happened. I was, it was mind-boggling.
Well, I think too, Darius, is like you can have players that make up an identity.
Yes.
They are a major part of the identity, and so I think when you have new players come in, so I think sometimes it kind of upsets things a little bit. And so other players have to perhaps they have new roles, lesser roles, and yes, they are professionals. But these guys, man, that's got to be hard in the whole room. And so I have confidence these guys are going to figure it out. But in terms of like the new guys that came in, I've read a lot of the same things you have with guys jumping all over them after 2 games, one of them without a practice with the team. And
Right.
I'll just say that these guys have families. Imagine if he called you up today and said, "Okay, you're going to have to move to a new city where you know nobody, have a whole totally a different employer, and you have to work with different people, and you have to move your family and all the other things." So I mean, it's understandable these guys' heads might not exactly be as dialed in as if they were, just
Yeah.
at home at their own place. So let's give them some time to acclimate, and I'm sure they'll be fine. These guys, anyways, that's about it for me, guys. Unless you have anything else.
I do. I'm going to throw in something else as well.
Oh, sure, Nick.
I'm
Oh, I like it.
very
Love it.
something that no one's really been talking about here, and it kind of just popped. I've been thinking about it a little bit. Let's not forget the Leafs. You mentioned the change of. I mean, Darius, you said it too, like the lines, right? Philip Myers, for one, he's playing more games than he ever has. The Leafs lost Connor Timmins, who played 51 games this season. So no one's even brought up Connor Timmins. He's been in the lineup almost every single night. So let alone obviously getting the new defenseman of Brandon Carlo. You lose Chris Tanev, you bring in someone else replacing Chris Tanev, and then you lose the guy who's been in almost as much as anybody else, and you replace him with someone who's barely been in at all in Philip Myers and isn't really an NHL caliber defenseman. So, and on the fourth line, you still also lose Connor Dewar, who hasn't been playing as much, but is still beginning in games. So I don't think Connor Timmins was a great defenseman. That being said, he was having a really, really good year. Like he was having a advanced analytics wise, a better year than Brandon Carlo, who you just gave up 2 first-round picks essentially for. So it's like people aren't really talking about the Connor Timmins thing as much. I don't think it doesn't, like in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter. He's not like a great defenseman and he won't be over a long period of time, but he played 51 games for the Leafs. And that's something that, I mean, multiple changes. It wasn't just, of course, it was Philip Myers now taking a much bigger role. He looks very out of place, which is something people aren't really talking about because they're all zeroed in on Morgan Rielly and Brandon Carlo. But Myers has looked bad in every game he's played since the trade. So even if you would have had Connor Timmins replacing Philip Myers, I think this team would have looked a little bit better out there. But I don't know, it was something that came into my mind. And Connor Timmins played a ton of games for the Leafs this year. So he's also out the door. And that was kind of the throw-in that no one really talked about because, of course, Kyle Dubas scooped him up. But he's gone as well. And he was I think that's one of the things now, like the bottom of their blue line now went from, the worst, I guess, being Connor Timmins to now you have Tanev gone, Connor Timmins gone, and you have a Benoit and Myers pairing. And there was times where they didn't have either of those guys in the game at points throughout the season. So it was interesting.
That's an interesting point, Nick. It's something I hadn't really considered, but you're right. If you think about that, like Tanev out, and Dewar out, like that's a third of their defense, like basically changed or injured, right? And I have 6 guys, that's a lot. And then you throw in 2 other guys that aren't familiar with the systems, aren't familiar with their partners. And I thought it shouldn't be too surprising that some chaos is going to ensue. Oh, I just thought of one more point, and I'll make it quick before you guys go, is that I just want to say that the fourth line, for the most part, has looked, and I hate to say this, has looked a lot more serviceable without the rotation of Reeves in it.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because I'm an old school guy and I am always the first guy to like tout the tough guys, but like, it just looks more effective than it did with Reeves in it. I think the game has sort of passed him by a little bit. I hope to see him in the lineup at some point, just because I want to see that, but I'm just afraid of what we'll get if I get my wish, if you know what I mean, guys.
Oh, we'll see him game 1 of the playoffs. Don't worry. Game 1 and game 2, he'll be in
Can
the
we make
lineup. And then after
I'd
that,
like to
you'll
make a
never
bet
see
on
him
that.
again.
I'd like to make a bet
That
on
would
that.
be
But we will.
a good over. That would be a great over under.
No, we're gonna do something. I
see
think
it.
closer to the playoffs, I want to do a whole thing based on that. But
I
Jim,
don't
before
see
we
it
let you
simply
go,
because of Calle Yarncroke. That's why I don't see
No,
it.
he's
Even though
been
he was
playing
on the
well.
second line, even though he was like moved up to the second line tonight, I just don't see a world where they do it. Also, I think Benoit's kind of replaced what Ryan Reeves does, at least when it comes to fighting. I think even having
tough.
Philip Myers in there, you could say that he does a lot of the stuff. Obviously a defenseman, but continue, Darius.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jim, before we let you go, I hate to open this can of worms, but I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, when we have another
Uh-oh.
call in,
Uh-oh.
I want to get into this because we haven't talked about this on stream, but it's been a topic of conversation the last couple of days.
Sure.
What's your, take on everything that's happening with Mitch Marner?
This is no one's gonna like my take, but I'll say this: is that I truly believe that he wants to stay in Toronto, but I
Mhm.
also believe that he's a very, very pricey ticket. He wants to test free agency. I think he's made it very clear that he intends to do that. I don't think that's just some sort of bargaining tool that he's using. I think he really wants to see what's out there. And he may be using that as some sort of wedge to get more money. Um, if I was a gambling man, I would say that Mitch Marner is no longer a Toronto Maple Leaf as of July 1st.
That's how I'm feeling as well, and I think the Leafs, if things go the same way, I think the Leafs as an organization should move on anyway. Like if you lose in the first or
Mm-hmm.
second round in the same fashion, you should move on anyway. That's just the way I feel
Mm-hmm.
about it. But if they win the Stanley Cup, I think he's still going to test free agency and
So
just
do
see
I.
what's out there. Because another team, like I don't know, the Rangers are desperate. What if they're like, hey, we'll give you 14 million or something, right? Because
Well,
that's
if they
that's what
make
he's
a
asking
deep
for.
run, if they sorry, Darius, to cut you
Yeah,
off.
go ahead.
If they
No,
do
no.
make a deep run, or if they actually imagine if they actually do win the Stanley Cup, what will his asking price be then?
Right.
So no, so I'm saying like the Leafs cannot afford him, really can't afford him now. And people are, and there's a lot of chatter about like, well, if how you can't go out there and get a player to replace Mitch Marner, and that's true. That's very true. But what we
Yep.
can do is get three other players that could do the role and perhaps some other things, and not all the things he can do, obviously, but could do some other things he is unwilling to do a lot better.
I think that's true, and that's kind of I don't like that argument that the Leafs won't find a player like him because we all know that. But it's like with that cap space, you can sign three other guys that are going to come in and bang and smash and get to the net when it matters. So,
Absolutely. And
we'll see what happens when it gets there. I was just curious for your take because obviously there's a lot. There's not even two sides to it at this point. Everything we've seen the last 3 days, 4 days, it's like there's six sides to everything. So, it's been pretty crazy.
yeah, and I think there's been a lot of stuff too with Marner's agent. He's very public. He likes to he likes to argue contracts in the media too.
Mm.
So and he's very wise. He's very savvy. So I think part of it might be just trying to market manipulation and stuff and try to get the most. Because hey, if you're Mitch Marner or his agent, you're looking at this going, hey, look, not John Tavares. I've watched Austin Matthews. I've watched Nylander. Nylander sat out and got exactly what he wanted,
Yeah.
and then Austin Matthews got everything he wanted and more. Why would Marner think he's any less valuable in a year where he has played better, arguably, than either of the other?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a
So
very good point. I think one other
right.
thing too, like I think the decision becomes harder. Like you mentioned, if they go on a deep run, I don't think there's a world they let him walk because then it's hard to justify letting him walk if you go to the Stanley Cup Finals. You have this exact same core you can keep, but I think it entirely depends on the playoff series, and that's why I've been saying it's the biggest playoff series in like a decade for the Leafs, which is obvious. They haven't won anything, but when it comes to like the future of Mitch Marner, the future of, I mean, most of the other guys are locked in now. Like they don't really have a choice to like change too much. John Tavares, of course, could walk as well. I think he's going to stay, but Matthews under contract,
Yeah.
Nylander's under contract, OEL's under contract, Chris Tanev's under
Yeah.
contract, Anthony Stoller's under contract, Joseph Wall's under. Like you're not going to have a chance to. You're not going to trade any of those guys. So if they play bad, then you just let them walk, and then that's your retool. That's your gap to retool things. It's never going to be a rebuild right now. It's a retool. Now, if they win, then you just pay the guys. I think it's a fairly simple, like, obviously it's going to be tough with the number. The question is, if he's asking for 15 million and then you have the Stars somehow, the Stars wouldn't do it after getting Mikko Rantanen, but some team comes out and just offers Mitch Marner like 15 or 16 million to be the star player of their team. Utah Hockey Club somehow put together $16 million, and the Leafs can only offer him 14.5, but they're coming off of a cup window. Like in the cup final, but they lose. Then what do you do? That's where I think it becomes interesting. But I think it directly depends on how the playoffs go because Brad Treliving is a fantastic GM from what we've seen so far. So I have faith in what he's going to do. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what the players do in the playoffs because it becomes pretty easy if they lose in the first two rounds. And if they extend Marner after losing in the first two rounds, then that's another question. So there's a lot of ways it can go, but that's kind of my sense on it.
Well, there's an interesting semi-hot take is that I would think, let's just use the scenario we talked about. Let's just say the Leafs go on a deep playoff run. Okay. So there is a world where if the Leafs go on a deep run, let's just say they make it to the conference final, or even better, they make it to the Stanley Cup final. So let's just say that happens. There is a world where a lot of those players that are looking at contracts will take a little bit of a haircut to keep the band together, not because they want to take a haircut, but it's because if you get that far with a team, you get a taste. I don't think you're going to want to break the band up. You're going to be like, okay, because now you've gone to war with these guys on a deep run, and there's a world where these guys look at each other and go, you know what, it worked for Boston. Maybe it can also work in Toronto. Anyways, that's it for me, guys.
Yeah, I don't think Marner does that. I just feel like he doesn't. That's the scary thing for me.
Yeah.
Like, I think even if they do, he's going to be, him and his agent are going to be like, yeah, 16 or we're out of here. I'm actually going to increase my price because of how well I played in the Stanley Cup final. Because to get the Stanley Cup, you'd have to assume that he played well. But yeah, it's a good point, Jim. It's going to be a conversation that we have like for the next month into the playoffs and then into the offseason. And that's going to be, I can already begin to picture the Marner videos that are going to be breaking our hearts depending on how it goes.
Sorry, I just read something in the chat from Shane saying, "Holy poop, you're still streaming! Didn't think you'd even get to stream tonight." That's awesome.
Oh, we're still
That's
here.
Probably a good time for me to. But yeah, I just, as far as the Marner stuff goes, yeah, it's interesting because there's not a world where his agent is ever going to say, "Look, you made it really deep. You made a deep run and you made it to the Cup final." Accept less. But at the end of the day, guys, it is the player's decision. And so if they want to keep the band together, they probably will. But who knows? I understand what you think about that. But you never listen. When these guys who've never had a taste of getting that far in the playoffs get an idea of what it takes and going to war together, it changes mindsets pretty quickly. And when you're talking, do I want to make 10 or do I want to make 14? I mean, at the end of the day, to these guys, that's really, with all their endorsements and stuff they would receive in Toronto, I think it would be stupid of Marner to go elsewhere. But hey, these smart players have done dumber things. So, anyways, guys, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for what you guys do, and a really good stream, guys. Thank you so much. And Darius, welcome back.
Thank you, Jim.
All right,
Jim.
Have a good night, Jim.
Take it easy,
care.
Jim.
Thank you.
I'll be in Toronto soon, so hopefully we can.
Sounds good. I'll touch base, buddy.
Yes, sir. Also, one thing to note as well, Darius. It's kind of caught my mind too. Scott Lawton, and they just gave up like 3 first-round picks for the 2 rentals. So if they let Mitch Marner walk after this year with
not rentals,
for non-rentals. So if they let Mitch Marner walk after this year, and then they don't replace him, it's going to be crazy. Robert with the 20.
Robert.
Watch as the puck went in the corner in our end, and Riley skated the other direction. Oh, well, Wall would get it. What was he thinking? Heads on the game like all the big boys tonight seemed lost. I would agree. I think Riley played well offensively and bad defensively overall. There was like one good defensive play by Riley. Robert, thank you for the 20. It means a lot, especially
Thank you, Robert.
Past 3 a.m. here for me. But, yeah, I mean, it was – I think Eric's on the line. We'll get him in now as well because it's a late one here. But, yeah, Shane, what's up as well?
I just wanted to point out because a couple of people while we're on the phone with Jim were saying, how much is Nye going to cost and the whole Marner thing. So what we know about Marner too is he's the dollar amount that he's reportedly asked for, because apparently, according to Chris Johnson, they haven't negotiated at all. He hasn't given them a number. The Leafs have offered him a contract. We don't know the exact number. It sounds like it was close to the Rantanen contract, and he said no, he doesn't want to negotiate. And then according to Chris Johnson, he hasn't negotiated. He hasn't given them a number, but according to the 4th period, he has given them a number, and he's given, he's put a number out there, and it's the equivalent over 7 years, because the Leafs are the only team to be able to offer him 8. So keep that in mind. They can actually offer him less than other teams because they can sign him an extra year, and it's more money in that way. He wants essentially the equivalent to $14 million over 7 years.
Sam Bennett
keep
too.
That in mind.
So if they let him walk, they pivot to Sam Bennett immediately.
100%.
Maybe PED Ekblad. Yeah, well, I mean, I made up that
Ekblad's
nickname.
an option too. Ekblad's an option. Yeah, I know. But the other thing is Nyes. I wonder if it's a bridge contract, and I think it's $7 million. But we'll see what happens there. They have quite a bit to do this offseason, that's for sure. But all of it revolves around Marner. Nobody. I think once they get an idea after the playoffs what's happening with Marner, because they will, right? They'll know if he's going to free agency or not. That's when they'll sign Nyes and Tavares, because they'll need an idea of how much cap space they're playing with.
Yeah, I wonder how many rumors are going to fly during the postseason in a month. We'll have to see. But let's bring in Eric. I believe it's Eric. I'm pretty sure I have the number memorized. But either way, it is whoever the caller is. Welcome. It's a late one. And how are we feeling?
Morning, Nick and Darius.
It is Eric.
Yes, it's Eric.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's just funny. Darius just took my line there about Marner and the whole 8 years. They can offer the most AAV, just not the bigger price tag at the end of the day. But yeah, it's since Christmas we've been talking about this trade deadline, and now I think we're going to be talking about Mitch Marner until July 1st. It seems.
Oh, it'll be there's always news with this Toronto Maple Leafs team. It's because the whole NHL revolves around him, and to have a guy who you let go to free agency is it stings a little bit. They didn't get it done before, but at the same time, like we were here a few months ago in the offseason begging for him to get traded, and now he's having the best season of his career. So it's a interesting double-edged sword there.
Oh, it's always like that for contract year. It's just tough to see someone walk for nothing. But like Darius said, like the Leafs can provide the most AAV because they're the only team that if Marner would have waived to go to Carolina, then Carolina would have been able to give him 8 years. But he didn't want to get traded, right? So that tells me he does want to stay in Toronto. He's going to be a dad, and I'm sure he wants to have his family where he grew up. Just a matter of time. I think, like he said the other day, his main focus is to focus on the team right now, and see how far they get in the Stanley Cup run. But that's a later on story. But I've seen a couple of people in the chats. They're harping on Scotty and Brandon Carlo. They get traded Friday afternoon. They got to jump on a plane, go to Denver. There's like a couple hours time difference. They haven't played or practiced with the team. Then they travel to Utah. They need a couple of games to get settled in here. And honestly, like it doesn't help that like Morgan Riley hasn't been playing well at all. I know he had a chance to score tonight and he got robbed, but he needs to be playing better. And also our power play needs to be better. We can't even, our breakouts are pretty sad. They can't even get into the zone. But overall, like haven't been too impressed with their performance since I don't know, probably when Darius went and seen the Sharks game. I don't know if that was a curse or whatnot, Darius. There, we'll have to talk about that. But
Never going to a game ever again. Don't worry, Eric.
But they're kind of playing, a solid 10 minutes in the first period, and it's just like, and this is like up to a point that I think you guys were talking to with Jim, like how important it is for us to, win the division, to get first place in our division, to have home ice. Look how bad that with Chris Tanev out of the lineup, how it's been on us. So imagine what the Florida Panthers are feeling right now with Ekblad suspended for the rest of the season, 2 first games in the playoff. That could be a huge thing if they at least meet the Panthers in the playoff. They said it today that Marchand is going to be back in about 2 weeks, but I'm not worried. They're concerned about Marchand. So, just stick him on a line against Domi or something like Bertuzzi did last year, and he'll take care of him. I'm not worried about that, but just a key player like Kachuk's out for a couple of weeks. He'll probably be back before the playoffs, but this is the time now that the Leafs need these points. They got 3 more games against the Panthers, a couple against the Lightning. If the Panthers do play Boston tomorrow, so hopefully Boston wins that one. So then the Leafs will have a game in hand if they were to win on Thursday. It's important games for the rest of the year now. Like a couple of games, we should have won the 2 points against the Sharks or even against Colorado, but a couple of bad penalties. And even tonight, it wasn't a bad game up until the 3-2 scored, where that baloney call on the tripping for Benoit. That was a bad call, and that just turned the game around. And from then, the Leafs been playing kind of like crap. But again, a couple of bad calls, and that's what happens. They capitalize on a mistake. So, but hopefully Tanev I think he'll be back in the lineup on Thursday. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure at this point. It looked like he was getting close, and the language that they're using is kind of scaring me because Berube said he's not feeling like himself, like he's not feeling right. He wants to feel right. So We'll see. I wonder if they keep him out because they know it's going to be a physical game, and then they'll bring him back in the next game, which I believe is against Ottawa, which will also be a physical game because Ottawa's fighting for their lives as well. But I think it's got to be soon. He's been skating. I think he's been skating the whole time, right? So I'd imagine he's coming back soon. He makes the team a lot better, and they're really missing him. So we'll see exactly when he comes back. Obviously, I'm sure they're going to release updates over the next couple of days. They're probably going to skate and probably going to have some practices as well. They have a couple of days off, so we'll see. But I would imagine it's got to be soon. They're a completely different team without him. I do have to say the power play. I like your point about the power play because yes, it was good tonight. They scored 2 power play goals, but overall, it's been horrible. It's been absolutely horrible. And who's to say that next game they don't score on the power play again, and then the game after that, right? Like they've kind of been doing this all season. Well, they'll score like 2 or 3 power play goals in a game, then they'll go 4 games where it looks like the worst power play in the league.
I
And
mean,
then
you
they'll
saw
do
that
it all
tonight.
over
The
again.
last 2 power plays were horrible. The first 2 were
Horrible.
good. So it's like
Yeah.
back and forth.
So they gotta tighten that up in their play without Tanev. They just look a bit lost. I just think that they gotta get home, and then we'll see what they do Thursday and for the next 4 games in a row. They're at home, because this road trip was not kind to them whatsoever, and even against San Jose last week. I mean, that was horrible. They just stopped playing after the second period. It was horrible, but it's gonna be crazy. They have some tough games coming up. Ottawa, obviously Florida. It's gonna be hard games, but nothing's. You got to earn everything from here on out, and they got to earn that first spot. If you don't get it, you're in tough. So, try and get that first spot in the Atlantic.
Yeah, we just need more consistency off. Like I see Jim in the chat saying about the power play. Yes, it was good the first 2, but there's just no consistency with this team
Yeah.
in a game. If you're feeling hot in that game, but the last 2 or 3 power play, they couldn't even get into the zone. So when you have the core that you have, you should be able to get into the zone to kind of do something. Meanwhile, Utah's circling around us there at the end of the third, and we had Tavares or Willie on the ice for like 2 minutes. Like we can't have that, right? So that's what I'm just saying about the power play. Just needs to be more consistent. Yeah, they got 2 of them tonight, but just the zone entries needs to get a lot better. Like they're too predictable with the drop pass, and Marner did give it away a couple of times. It was soft backhanders. Like we gotta fix up and tune up our errors because other teams are capitalizing on those errors. That's all.
Yeah.
I think, it's an interesting one. I want to give a personal call out to the referees as well. One of the worst. Like, I guess I understand kind of why he called that one on Benoit, but made no sense as Robert comes in with the 10. Do you think that maybe the core four, sorry, it's late here, are playing too much, not able to trust the depth players to play in the place and give them a rest against the lower placed teams? It's possible.
I like them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point, actually. They do play a lot. Look at the ice time tonight. I think it was better tonight based on the eye test. Let me have a quick look here. Austin Matthews, 21 minutes. Mitch Marner, 21 minutes. Not bad considering there was overtime as well. But yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about that. I mean, they haven't been able to take care of business against the worst teams. Now you have Yarncroke healthy. Hopefully the lines are going to start, getting better. Pontus is playing better hockey. Where was he on the depth chart tonight? Yeah, he was 3rd. So like he's been playing better hockey. He's probably going to staple in there. The big storyline was Nick Robertson being healthy scratched the first time. How long was it since he was last scratched? Was it early February or was it? It was a while. It was a while.
It's been a
since-
while, couple weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been in the lineup.
Before the Four Nations, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because there's a big break there. Yeah, maybe
But-
it's January. Either way, it was well early, and because he's been playing good hockey. But they mentioned in the broadcast a lot, like the lineup we saw tonight, aside from Chris Tanev and for Philip Myers, it would be my prediction for their playoff game 1 lineup if I had to just take an early guess now. Simply because I think Pontus gets in there over Nick Robertson, and I mean, I think Pontus Holmberg, I was saying it before the trade deadline as well. Like, I think he's been playing better than most of the fourth liners, and I'm going to include Lorentz in that as well. I think he's been playing fine hockey, and he made an impact tonight, even had an assist, and his playing time is going higher and higher. I think he played really well. A bit of a tangent there, but I liked his game.
Yeah, Pontus has been playing pretty good as of late. Well, probably just after the Four Nations, but I think it all depends with Pacioretty if he comes off LTIR before the playoffs or whatnot. But I think McMahon should go back on that second line. You should definitely get McMahon, I think, on that second line and get his his juice is flowing again, because he's been most of all his points has been from, you know, Willie or Johnny T on that second line. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that, but I think Järnkrok should be either, you know, on the third or fourth line. Like, I would just swap those two. Yes, I did like the fourth line. You know, the third line needs kind of more of chemistry, I find. But like, if you're Berube with the last 20 so games in a season, you want chemistry. We know the first line have chemistry. The second line, you know, if you put McMahon up there, they play most of the year together. So, you know, your bottom pair, you want to get him used to for the playoffs. And what's nice about like that third line with Domi and Lawton is that, you know, they're both centers and they're both wings. So it's easy to kind of move them around if things don't work. You know, Järnkrok is kind of a Swiss Army knife. He can play, you know, left or right. So you have options there, but you want to get your bottom pair kind of on the same page here going into the playoffs. And I've heard it on the panel tonight, but I think they should be, you know, rolling out their starting goalie. I think kind of playing, if it's going to be Stolarz, like, you know, they're putting him in the bigger games. So that tells me they have more confidence in him. It's been like that all year, where when he was available, he would be playing the, you know, the bigger games like Colorado, and now they're playing the Panthers. So they see something in him. So they should be riding him a bit more to get his confidence and get ready for playoffs, because 20 games left, 19 games, it's going to come fast. Next month is playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to come faster than we all think. And I think you made a good point there that you got to start solidifying some of the lines. But I do think now things are going to change right now from the trade deadline on, obviously, because the trade deadline's done. But I think the blender is going to come out for the next couple of games. I think they're trying to figure out some stuff like, you know, what does Järnkrok have? And like in the tank, and we found out tonight, he looked pretty good. You know, what does he have? Where does he fit in the lineup? Some other guys, where do they fit in the lineup? I agree with McMahon. He should go up to the second line because he's way more useful than he's being, you know, used as there on the third line. And he has, you know, when he gets going, he's pretty good. He can be a dominant player with his speed and physicality. So, I agree with that. And Stolarz too. I think we're going to start to see that probably, you know, more of the bigger matchups. I think they're going to start easing him into some more games and, you know, prep him for the playoffs, because everybody can see it. It's not going to be Joseph Woll. Unless there's an injury, it's going to be Anthony Stolarz starting game one of the playoffs. Not just game one. They're not going to alternate like the Bruins were. It's going to be Stolarz unless something happens or they're eliminated. So that's just the feeling I have after, you know, the trade deadline. And one other thing that you mentioned too that I've been thinking about,
Robert, with a 5. Not to worry, we're gonna win the cup, so all will be forgiven. Robert, thank you for the 5. Also, quick note, Eric, Jim wanted me to tell you that please let Eric know he is always such a good call. So just wanted to throw that out there. But Darius, back to you.
I also, sorry, just real quick, another one of his comments there saying breaking news: Robo demands trade after being healthy scratched.
Yeah.
I checked, Jim. I checked just in case.
By the way, but
Jim, I'm telling you, we still have a front row seat for you on the Robo train. It's empty. It's been empty all year because there's only one person on the train and it's me driving it. But we do have an empty seat for you still if you'd like to hop on. But one last thing I wanted to mention too, because you kind of touched on it and I just thought about it. You know, these guys coming in, we're quick to judge them. And, you know, from the trade deadline, Scott Lawton, Brandon Carlo, you know, there was a story about Brandon Carlo. His wife is still back in Boston, like packing up their house right now and trying to move them to Toronto. Like there's things going on right now. He's going to settle in, right? Like there's a lot going on with these guys making the move to Toronto, and they haven't even been to Toronto yet. So let's give them a couple games here to settle in, get back home, and we'll see how they play. And I think that, you know, they'll be effective players for us.
Yep. Yeah, Brandon was actually flying back to Boston tonight to gather more things before heading up to Toronto. But quick question for you guys. So the team that you see now, well, we got Robertson and maybe Pacioretty coming back. So do you see one of those two factoring into the lineup before the playoffs? And if so, in the playoffs?
Nick, do you want to take this first?
I'll let you go first. I think I kind of spoken in a little bit, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I think right now, especially if Pacioretty comes back, which he's on LTIR, so won't be for a while still, it's going to be like the preseason to me. They're going to let guys battle it out, and especially in different spots. I feel like they're going to give Robertson some time on the third line, the second line. Thanks, Jim. They're gonna try out different things and kind of see what works with what, who's got chemistry with who.
Plug your ears.
And it's gonna be like the sure. It's going to be like the preseason, I think, where, they're testing out a lot of things. Guys are battling for spots, and whoever's playing best will be in the lineup. I've liked Holmberg's game the last little while. I've been critical of him. He's a good skater. Takes some weird routes to the puck sometimes, but we'll see what happens. But I think Robertson could be a good option. Like when he did come into the lineup last year in the playoffs, I thought he was somewhat making things happen. And I think that he's added some physicality to his game. So it's going to be interesting. Whoever's playing best at the time and who's available. Injuries happen too. McMahon didn't even play last year in the playoffs, right? That was bad luck. So we'll see what happens down the stretch. But I know that was a bit of a cop-out answer, but I Pacioretty gets hurt too much for me. He hasn't shown me too much after the second half of this year. So we'll see. I still like Robertson. I think he can be another good option. But Yarncroke's added something all of a sudden where I didn't think that he was going to, play this season, but he's added something to the lineup. So it's going to be interesting.
And he's full of energy, which is nice to see. He's skating very, very well. One thing I'd like to see also, maybe if things don't work out with the line chemistry, and we always talk about Marner having his own line. I don't know how it would be if Marner would be on the right wing on the third line with Lawton centering and McMahon. I don't know how that would look.
Yeah.
I should try it.
Yeah, I was thinking tonight, like what will Lawton look like? I mean, it's probably something they try next year if they extend Mitch Marner, because they have Lawton for another year. But yeah, I think the first line, I would laugh if all year I begged them to change the first line and they change it a month before the playoffs. That would be an interesting one. I think the top line's playing interestingly. It's probably the best word. Matthews looked a bit more aggressive tonight, but like we can't even say fast forward to the playoffs now, because each game matters so much in the regular season that every game, to me at least, feels like a playoff game, simply because the difference between winning the Atlantic Division and not, I think for this Leafs team particularly, will have such a big impact. If you go up against Florida or Tampa in the first round, or whoever you end up playing, right, it's going to be brutal. Now, if you get the first seed and you play one of the weaker teams, I think if they can build off of that, get a win under their belt, get that pressure, get that stigma away from them, you're rolling then. Hopefully your goalies, everyone's pressure's relieved. Then I think they can actually go on a serious run. But if you get faced with one of the good teams, you're going to play one of them anyway. Like you're going to play Florida or Tampa Bay, probably Florida at some point. But if you do that after winning a series, after everybody is feeling good, I think there's a much better chance, specifically for this Leafs team with the way they seem to get in their head. We saw it in the Amazon documentary and the documentary before that, all these different things. I think getting that first seed in the Atlantic is probably more important to the Leafs when it comes to seeding in your opponent than any other team in the NHL.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I have my takes on that. Like, it doesn't matter to me who the Leafs face in the first round, whether it's a top seed or lower seed. We've seen in the past where that's got us with Montreal or Columbus. So for me, it doesn't matter. Like first round, you're going to meet someone eventually. Yep. But yes, it would be nice to get that first round win going into the second round with more of an energy boost. But if we're facing Ottawa or Columbus, like they have just as much as a good chance. Like they're on a heater right now, and they're feeling good. Like they won again tonight. Ullmark was amazing. They got like 40-some save, 2-1 victory. So it's anyone's game right now in the East. Like it's just crazy how everyone's playing. But real quick before I let you guys go, the one thing I do see a world happening is that they put Domi center and Lawton on the wing. If things don't work out, I can see that happening.
I could see that as well. Yeah,
I can see it happening because that's what they did in like you mentioned in with Philadelphia with Torts, and I said that in one of the videos beforehand that Lawton grades out much worse as a center than he does a wing. So I think there's a good chance that happens. It's a good call, Eric. I think once that happens, we'll have to shout you out.
I'm just fine with Domi and Robertson. Like they're not there defensively. That's my problem.
Yeah.
And I just seen Shane actually put that in the chat. I was not copying Shane. We have just the same ideas. But it's just defensively, like even Domi was kind of, he got an assist tonight, but he was kind of just floating around. Like he hasn't been the same Domi this year. I don't know what's going on, but you might have to get another phone call from Wayne Gretzky maybe and get some tips here, because this year is the year. You know, all our defensive cores signed for a couple of years after this year, and you know, I think right now maybe Marner thing is a distraction for the Leafs right now. Maybe that's, you know, explains kind of their play style. But that'll be another video. But I'm gonna let you guys go. got a couple hours before heading to work here. So thanks for the stream, guys. Like and subscribe the channel. Guys do an awesome job. So we'll are you guys streaming on Thursday?
Every game the rest of the way. We won't. I don't think we're gonna miss one the rest of the way. And a lot of them, I don't think there's any more Western Conference games either. So there'll be better times as well. But yeah, only 18 left, 19 left, whatever it is. Not many games left. We'll be one of us should be live the rest of the way. So yep, Thursday is I'm a little bit nervous for that one. I'll be honest, but it is what it is.
It'll be
live.
exciting.
Yeah, it is what it is. But maybe they'll be throwing faces of Marchand on the ice. Who knows?
It's going to be an interesting game.
It'll be a good game.
Eric, thank you for the call-in. Fantastic, as usual. And hopefully, don't forget to, hopefully the coffee will help you tomorrow if you drink coffee, because it's going to be late for all of us here, I think. But that's what happens when the Leafs go into shootout on a 10 p.m. start time.
Yeah.
That just makes us diehard crazy Leafs fan. Still up at like 2, 4 in the morning.
Yep.
That's right.
And that's the way the Leafs will do it. And it's all going to pay off in the playoffs. I'm going to speak into existence. Eric, thanks for the call. And hopefully you get a good night, good nap, a good couple hours of sleep there.
Okay, boys. Take care. We'll chat on Thursday.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Eric.
Shout out to Eric. One late game left in San Jose. Okay, there you go. So there's one left. Oh boy.
Yeah, there's one 10 o'clock left. Yeah. I do want to say, because a lot of people are talking about patches, and Jim was asking for an update. So the update is Brad Treliving spoke a couple of days ago. It looks like Hakanpää may never play again. Shocker! Shocking! Breaking news. He may never play again.
It's okay. We got Brandon Carlo.
Caught me by surprise. Max Pacioretty is on LTIR right now. The reason I believe he's on LTIR is because they have no cap space. They need somebody on LTIR. So unless there's an injury, he's not going to play the rest of the year until the playoffs, whether he's healthy or not. The other thing is they can only activate him 21 days. I believe it's 21 days or to 24 days from the time of his injury. So they put him on LTIR retroactive to when he got injured. I can't remember the exact date because they weren't playing. It was in practice. So, 20, I believe it's 21 days after that happened, they can reactivate him, but they don't have the cap space to do that. So that's what's happening there. And Hakanpää may never play again. Color me shocked.
Someone asked, Nick, a 10:30 start is absurd. So that's against San Jose.
Which, by the way, never 10:30. Like the one against Vegas. Hey, guys, 10:30 start. Sit down, enjoy, grab your popcorn, and we will start the game in exactly 27 minutes.
So just so we know, everyone in here late at night, that game is starting for me on Friday. So when the game starts, it's going to be Friday. Just for all you people on the Eastern time zone, it's going to be Friday when the game starts for me. So
Midnight
for me, it's a Friday
game
game. Yeah, it starts at midnight, which is going to be, it's going to be, it's actually perfectly fine for me, but like it's still pretty, and we'll be doing them too, because this is the latest stream we've had ever, and it's latest stream I've ever done on any channel, and it's we got a lot of activity here. But yeah, the game's Friday for me. It's almost 4 a.m. as well, so that's it's lovely.
There's only one left, Nick, and I don't even think there's any 9 o'clock starts left. I think there's like an 8 o'clock start in there, but yeah, maybe if they're on the weekend, but
yeah, because I was watching like a Lakers game or something before the Leafs game, and it felt like it was like the afternoon, because I knew that right after the game we had had another stream going in the nighttime. So
yeah,
it is what it is. We're also 2 likes away from 50, so if you're in here lurking, a lot of diehard Leafs fans out there. It's best community on YouTube. I guess we do the best community on YouTube. I guess we do the 3 stars. Yeah.
Yeah. First star, Joseph Wolt. No. I think we both have the same first star, because there's no way there's no way he's the first star the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like there maybe, but for my third star tonight, I'm gonna go with Max Domi. I'm gonna go with Max Domi for my third star. I thought he was skating well. That one back check in overtime I thought was pretty good. Made a very nice pass to Yarn Croak. I'm going to go a little bit off the board just because I like to sometimes. I'm going to go Max Domi.
I'm going to go with Mitch Marner as my third star. Got the game-winning goal. Fantastic game. Not actually fantastic game, but a fantastic goal for him. Yeah, so shout out to that. I'm going to go with Mitch Marner.
I thought Matthews was pretty good tonight too. He was skating well. He was trying to be his dominant self again and just take over, which I miss from last year. I miss when he was just like, I'm going to score now, and you're going to do nothing about it. But I'm going to go with second star Calle Yarncroke. First goal in over a year. I thought he was skating well. He's been skating well since he came back, which kind of surprised me, but I guess they wouldn't play him if he wasn't going to. So no, second star, he was good.
Same with me.
Yeah, and Simone Benoit, Superman punch, Roman Reigns from the top rope. That was insane. We didn't even really like get into that, by the way, on the stream, but that was one of the most insane things I've seen. Like to get up that high,
Completely and then lose the fight. By the way,
yes.
Not only did he
Yes.
lose the fight and whiff from the Superman punch, Utah scored 3 unanswered goals. Now I don't blame Benoit for that because he had 7 penalty minutes tonight, and I'm gonna still call him out. One of the worst officiated games I've ever seen. 2 calls, by the way, shouldn't have been called. The one on Benoit and the one on OEL. Even though OEL absolutely plowed. But he got shoved in.
Not really though. I watched the replay, so I was like, "What happened there?" Really, because I was watching the puck, right, and then they show the replay, and I was like, "Wow!" Like that is 230 pounds or whatever he is, just barreling into the.
I think he would have
defender and goalie.
My take on it is that I think he would have stopped because he was going pretty fast, but then he got nudged. I forget who it was. Either way, like cut him off.
The defender.
I don't think he got shoved that hard, but he cut him off. And then he plowed it. Because I think technically if you get hit into the goaltender, it shouldn't be goalie interference. Right? I'm pretty sure it's obviously not supposed to be. Eric, actually, fun fact, you said that. While you were on the call-in, or while Jim, one of the two were on the call-in, I have that written down in my notes. I actually have the picture. I'm going to grab it for you all right here. This is going to be.
Got to be Roman Reigns, right?
No.
Dude, it's like something out of Dragon Ball Z or something.
Right
like that
here. This is going to be the now. This is not going to be the emote. This is like a subscribe thing we got done up on the fly, getting done already. This is going to be the emote, which is actually shout out to Mark Pye. Fantastic creation there. Mark Pye over on Canucks Digest.
Canucks Digest. Shout out.
So this is going to be for all you members out there. It's going to be the emote and he completely missed and he lost the fight. That doesn't really matter. He's that guy.
Doesn't matter
Jersey?
because
Okay, Jersey.
No.
That should be the pick of Benoit. Oh, it's a good idea too.
No, that's pretty cool.
That's a great. We're gonna use this in tomorrow's video.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of the pictures of all time. That's for sure.
You guys saw it first. You guys saw it's a fantastic. You guys saw it first.
We got to get his legs in there just for the dramatic effect. How high off the floor he was.
You had to superimpose Reigns' body over that with Benoit's face.
Yeah,
that can be done too.
Yeah, no, we're definitely gonna do something. That's crazy.
Yeah, I wish we can you put that video in your intro?
It might end up there.
Yeah,
we're doing something for playoffs, so it might end up there.
Oh, that's a fantastic idea. You mean the stream intro?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Darius can cook something. Darius has something cooked up for the playoffs anyway.
It'll be different for playoffs.
Now he's gonna have that. You're gonna have to add that in now.
Yeah,
that'll probably be. Oh, that's easy now. We know what we're gonna do.
I know what we're doing.
I'm not gonna say it. Should I say it for the people in here at 3 a.m? Okay, you guys can.
You'll see it game one. Game one.
Those penalties were terrible.
In April.
Yeah, horrific.
Yeah, awful.
It was early leak. Yeah, I mean this will be there tomorrow. You'll probably see this in the when I ask. It'll be in the when I ask for subs tomorrow morning.
I did appreciate my entire Twitter timeline posting Roman Reigns gifs as soon as that happened. Like there was no context. It was just Roman Reigns.
On night where there was WWE Raw or whatever it was.
Yeah, Raw was on and then this happened immediately. Like if you're watching Raw and then flip the channel to the Leafs game,
is what you did.
Like, yeah, which is literally.
Did you see it live? Yeah, I think you saw it live.
I did see this live, but it was pretty good timing where you go Raw, where Roman Reigns returned, by the way. And then obviously this Superman punch, pretty hilarious. But
Jim, that's the goal. That's the we're all Leafs fans at the end of the day. That's what it comes down to.
That's right.
You stay up till 4 a.m. watching.
I love how you're just like throwing the picture around.
I like it. It's such a good picture. It is a fantastic one. When I ask for when I say the percentage not subscribed to more and I ask for subs, this will be there.
This will be the photo. We'll see.
Reigns hit Rollins with a Superman punch. Yeah. Yes. Maybe Benoit heard about. I mean, I don't watch wrestling, but I know Darius does. So maybe they.
During the intermission, he was like, "Yep."
Ladies and gentlemen,
that's what I'm doing.
What a great stream. I'm hoping playoffs are going to be nerve-wracking. I can feel it. My heart was going in that game tonight for some reason. It was not for some reason. The game mattered a lot.
Those points.
Yeah, the game mattered a lot. And ultimately, they're now 2 points behind the Panthers, which means if they win, I guess it depends what happens tomorrow. The Leafs still have a game in hand, regardless of what happens. But if out of town
It's a
score
big
watching.
swing.
I'm going to be watching the Bruins and Panthers game tomorrow night before my football. So keep an eye out for that.
That'll be a big one. Speaking of big, a triple threat match at WrestleMania: CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. Anyway,
Hit the like and
Let's wrap it
subscribe
up.
button. Yeah, Eric, definitely do that. All right, we'll be live again on Thursday. Probably 2 videos coming for you tomorrow. I suspect, are they going to be skating tomorrow? Probably not, but
I imagine it's a day off.
Yeah.
But they'll definitely Wednesday. They're gonna have some stuff for us. So
hopefully, this time tomorrow.
breaking news: Hawk and Paw is still out. That's gonna be Wednesday.
Hopefully tomorrow, this time we'll be celebrating. I mean, hopefully we'll probably all be asleep, but we'll be celebrating the Panthers losing to the Bruins because the Bruins did it once already just did it with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So if they can do it again, that would be much appreciated for the Bruins.
Well, they don't play tomorrow. They play later today. All right, everyone. Have a good night.
It's true.
That
is true. All right, everybody. Fantastic night. Domi with a
Thanks,
good
everyone.
game as well. And as per usual, we will leave you all with the stream outro. So enjoy the song, and we will see you all video tomorrow morning. Well, this video this morning, I guess.
Video
is
tomorrow.
the time. Yeah, take it
Today.
Please digest your daily dose of gold. Stories of the bold where legends untold. From first pop drop to the season's full.